Now I ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice and liberty for all. Please be seated. You've all received a copy of the July minutes. Are there any edits or corrections? Yes, yeah.
So I was looking at the minutes and I think it should probably reflect that. It says that Cheryl and I were not present. Cheryl Jones, but we were online and we could not get in.
Oh, okay, so we
So
should
it
indicate
was a
that, yeah.
technical-
Were you
yes.
able to see it? Because I think there was some
We
question
could,
about,
we were on here, we couldn't see anything. First we could, and then it went out.
Were you able to
couldn't
hear
see
us?
any- Couldn't hear either, but we kept trying to connect. I think we sent you an email about this.
Yeah, I don't typically have my phone out during meetings, so that.
Right, right, no, I know you don't.
Yeah.
But it came on and then it went out.
Well, it seems
So
like
I
we're gonna be.
think if it could reflect that we were trying to get on.
yeah,
but
I
it just
think
wasn't
we should.
because of
Yes,
technical.
absolutely. If
issues.
you're trying, we should indicate
It's
that.
you and what?
Cheryl Jones.
Oh, sorry.
It sounds like we're gonna be shifting back to that smaller room, which will be, we'll have to make sure we update the Zoom information on that.
Oh, right, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sorry they had that difficulty.
No, that's.
So the minutes will reflect that.
will update that, yes.
And if I may, one
Yeah,
other,
sure.
I think I was marked both present and absent, and we certainly I was here.
Just one.
I'll double check that.
I remember you being here.
It was David Lynch that was absent.
Well, at the version I read of the draft July, I think I was marked absent than present, so.
I think the present was the more accurate one.
I was here.
Okay, great. So the minutes will reflect that.
Yes, I will.
I want to start with old business. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
call
well,
and
we
make
will,
sure
sure.
that.
Okay, so actually, this looks great. I had a chance to look at it. The age-friendly report. We've been hearing about it for so long and it's finally a reality. So congratulations to all of you that were involved in it, especially Joe. Commission. So Joe, would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Sit down, I'll get it.
Hello,
Hi.
hi.
Okay, well, we'll have to hold on.
Okay.
Fine.
Apologies for coming.
No, not a problem. So we're very, very pleased to have our first selectman visiting us. As you know, following the tragic death of Bill Verber, Christine really, it appeared, stepped up and seamlessly took over that role. And we thank you so much for doing that and stepping in there. And we know it's been challenging and we really appreciate your involvement and we're so glad that you're here to talk a little bit about what you're involved with. I guess that'll take many, many days.
Involved in a little bit of everything these days, but very much really appreciate the invitation and really want to hear about the work that you're doing and your priorities and how I can help move that forward. Prior to serving on the Board of Selectmen and finding myself as first selectman, I served on the Board of Education for 6 years and was chair for 4 years and involved in the community through PTA and junior league and church groups and Girl Scouts before that. So really just to care about people and providing services to those people that maybe don't have a voice or need a little bit of extra help. Was my impetus in getting into public service. Served on Fairfield Cares Community Coalition, co-chair of that. Served on that for probably 10 years. So I've worked with many in other capacities over the years.
That's great. We basically, our commission is basically, as you well know, is to oversee the human services aspect of this, which incorporates so many different areas. And, I think we've been pretty effective. We could always be more effective in trying to determine what areas we need to really be focusing on and what areas could need additional support. And try to address those as best we can or determine or get information that would help us determine the best way to address those areas. And again, I feel we could always do more. And we're always open to hearing, where the town feels we could be greater assistance. So Julie has been fantastic in directing us in terms of identifying areas and brainstorming in terms of how we might more effectively meet those areas where there is a deficit. And, we were just talking before, Joe was going to get into the age-friendly action plan, which is rather comprehensive and addresses a lot of those areas. And looking at the reports, there are more elderly people. The percentage of elderly people is increasing. And, how do we address those issues? That's one of the areas. Health is another area that we're very concerned about. Mental health for youth as well as the overall population. So these are housing. I mean, all of these areas are the areas that we look at and try to indicate where there are needs and try to determine the best way for the town to be able to address those needs. And I open the floor up to anybody that would have comments for our first selectman.
I have a comment, if I may.
Surprise.
It's not necessarily on human service. But I'd say that one of the things that I think you and the Republican colleagues have been very good on is this whole UI project. And I think we will thank you and applaud, and I think that's a great example of how both sides can work together. We don't have an end result
We don't
yet,
have an end result. and
but
it's-
I think just as a resident of Fairfield, I do appreciate the work that your office and Bill Gerber had done, and as well as Tony and everybody else.
And the coordination with the city of Bridgeport.
Coordination and this coordination, and I think it's important because it shows how Democrats and Republicans can work together. And I think it's a very good point that has come out of this. And all I can say is, I'm just wondering, having this as part of your experience, utility companies. And I think we also have this probably with our water company too. I think Aquarian is kind of going down the same path. I'm just curious, is there something that you've kind of learned as far as how we should be approaching these utilities? Years ago, people just took utilities for granted. They just filed their things and blah, blah, blah. But I think what has come about with, at least with the UI thing, is showing how we really do need to watch what is happening on the regulatory front. And so I was just curious from your own.
I mean, just from my own personal experience, I think that and seeing how the UI thing played out from the very beginning, I think that we're just trusting. I think that everybody wants to make sure we have enough power and that the grid is hardened. We've all lived through, many of us through storms and losing power for extended periods of time. But I don't think that anyone was really thinking about just the impact of these monopoles coming into our community and how difficult it is to really push back against a company that's owned by a foreign entity and really just has the amount of resources and connections that smaller municipalities really just don't have. So in terms of paying attention and advocacy for things like the siding council was definitely a learning curve for me. And I think that a lot of towns in Connecticut right now are kind of coming together and uniting. We're talking about Aquarian, the sale of that right now is of concern, and what that means for ratepayers and how we're somewhat of a pass through, in terms of bringing power to other parts of the region. I guess closer oversight. And I think that maybe as a town that it's the first selectman's office is taking the lead on that right now. But maybe we should be thinking about another advisory body locally to be following these issues as
Obviously,
they move
the governor
forward.
was involved as well because he did delay the.
Well, yeah, and that, I mean, a lot of it, we, as at the town and a lot of grassroots organizations, when it came down to governor, and the siding council is its own entity, similar, he can't get in and speak to individual members. He does appoint them, and can definitely let his views be known. But there was some behind the scenes, just calling and really expressing the concerns and hearing the feedback as the governor, concerned about our community, but also concerned about the impact that this UI project's going to have on rates for Connecticut and the region. So it's a tricky dynamic right now.
And UI is claiming that if the wires that go underground, it's gonna cost a lot more for the general, well, not the general public, but actually the public specifically to our region. Whereas if they're above ground, they're a lot less expensive. So that, it's a thinly veiled threat, basically,
Right.
in terms of, the outcome of this.
And it's a concern, concerned as first selectman about the impact of these poles
Sure.
that the current height has on our private
The
property
aesthetics,
owners, the
yeah.
aesthetics, the taking of private property, the impact on small businesses along the route. But electrical costs are a concern for our community as well. So trying to find those balance is difficult. And I think that's why the governor is really hoping that there can be some sort of movement on this. The town is continuing to push for undergrounding. I feel like UI really hasn't been transparent in what those costs are.
Mhm.
But right now, perfectly honest, they're kind of in the driver's seat. We have a delay in the siting council vote. Not really anticipating the siting council changing their vote at this particular
Well,
moment.
they did.
Yeah,
They
they
did
did,
before,
but
right, yeah.
I don't, they did, so
Yeah.
we continue to advocate, so maybe, but I'm moving forward with the assumption that most likely they're not gonna flip back.
So
I
if-
wish they would,
Yeah.
but
If they don't flip back, what other options do we have?
we're just trying to get more information. I mean, there's legal options of just trying to appeal and holding them up in court, but that also is not ideal either, because that, either way, it comes at a cost to the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Because if the project is held up and they're litigating it, they're gonna pass that, on to everyone who's using their service, and we're gonna keep on fighting as a town and be paying legal bills to fight it, so.
I'm wondering, what gives them the right to move into people's property?
Eminent domain,
How
that
does
it's
that just
really,
happen?
it's just part of, for the greater good, that this is needed for the greater good, to provide a key essential service, electricity. That gives them the ability to do this.
I think one of the bigger issues though is, this is a huge issue, but the cost of what we pay in the state of Connecticut for our energy generation compared to any other state, we're the highest in the country, including Alaska and Hawaii. So why are we so high? So there's a bigger issue here, other than UI wanting to put poles up.
Yeah.
Why are we paying so much? Who's asking those questions and who's digging into that? We read everything else about it, but
Mhm.
why? What's our reason? We're one of the smaller states. Why are we paying the highest? So,
And I guess there are two different, from what I understand, there are two different entities. One is the generation of the power and the other is the transmission.
Right.
So and UI, I suppose, is more involved with the transmission than they are in the generation. But the generation is very high and that shouldn't be as high as it is right now.
Another thing I do. I notice in town, I think it's awful, a disgrace, the power lines, all those new big black wires. And they're even touching the ground somewhere around poles, and they're hanging loose and, in the top of the, where they're running. And, they're loops. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Down along the Metro
They're
North.
everywhere, everywhere. I think it's unbelievable that who's doing it doesn't take any pride in what they're doing. They're just doing what they're doing and walking away from it, and we have to look at it. And it's a disgrace, I think, for our town to have to put up with that. I never see it in another town.
Well, it would be a lot worse if the monopoles are up.
Yeah, and
Then we're living with that too.
But the other thing is, even in terms of, concern about storms and growing concern about storms with the wires buried underground, there's a significant lessening of that risk. Whereas if they're above ground, it becomes that much more of a problem. But I know you're working on
that,
all
you
this,
know?
yeah, right.
I mean,
I-
it's-
Yeah.
I-
We're all speaking to the choir here.
That's right.
We wish you a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
mean,
good
and we're
luck and
trying,
appreciate,
trying to see if there's any kind of movement that we can shorter, if it needs to be above ground, could they be just along the existing lines? Like, we're used to lines right now, if we keep them where they are, and something that's more palatable than these huge,
Absolutely.
monopoles
Right.
that could are
It reminds-
16, 17 stories.
Absolutely.
You know,
It
having the
reminds me
press,
of that tree that, I don't know if any of you noticed on the Merritt Park where it goes into Hutchinson,
Oh,
there's a
yes.
gas station there.
oh,
and
the,
there's
the,
this-
the cell,
The cell tower that they made into a tree.
Yeah.
Right. The tree is, of course, a hell of a lot higher than any other tree in any area. And certainly, I don't know if that's any better to have them all look like trees, but.
Yeah.
You don't fall for that tree, right? You know it's not gonna happen.
Clearly, it's not a real tree.
And I think that we all appreciate that we need power and that unfortunately, some of the catenaries are, to your point, really not attractive, and it would be wonderful if we didn't have to see them.
Do we have a right to say something? To call these companies and say, you need to clean up your act, more or less?
I think it's really just having the power and the money to make them. Right now, there's no real incentive for them. We've been trying and they don't seem to really care about
Obviously.
about the aesthetics right now.
It was helpful, I think, that Governor Lamont asked that they delay.
No, I very much appreciate, lots of people were reaching out to him, behind the scenes and letting him know what the concerns were. And it isn't just a not in my backyard, and it's not just that we don't like the way that it looks, that it really is the taking of private property and the impact that it's gonna have to many small businesses along that corridor. And, the city of Bridgeport, which the railroad line is elevated there. So it's really, those poles are gonna be coming more into the city itself. So I don't know how they're going to manage that. So I very much, reached out to Governor, Mayor Ganem to really join us in this fight. I think it's important
Great.
that we're united, have a united voice on this.
Is there anything that you feel we could do as a commission that would be helpful in
I
that
don't-
regard, or other?
I think the community's been great, just in terms of reaching out and emailing and writing to the governor. He definitely hearing from individual residents is meaningful, as opposed to just hearing from politicians to some extent, bending his ear. I think the press conferences helped. Our state delegation here in Fairfield has been helpful, and in Bridgeport as well. So.
In other areas, regarding housing in
Mhm.
Fairfield, I know you have so much on your plate right now, but I mean, any initiatives, new initiatives coming up? I mean, there seems to be opposing points of view, as there always are, I think, in terms of the need for more housing, especially for the elderly, yet the concern that more housing is going to be greater traffic issues and things like that, and utility issues and things.
Well, thankfully, we have a moratorium for 830G
Mhm.
for 4 years. So we talk a lot about local control, like now is our opportunity to take local control and really plan for senior housing, for workforce housing. You're coming from the Board of Education with teachers' contracts. So like, there used to be a day that maybe we would take a lower salary because we could afford to live in town, and that was a benefit. That benefit is gone. So we're losing teachers, same thing, met with fire and police, same thing. It's just they can't afford, the people that work here can't afford to live here. And for small businesses and bringing more commerce to town, you want to have people to be able to work in those businesses. So affordable housing needs to be part of the conversation, but on our terms, that don't support the tear downs and these huge,
Right.
these multi-story in the middle of residential
Right,
neighborhoods.
concern about utilities.
Utilities, and I think that
Flooding.
flooding and the infrastructure that we have just for their sewer system, for the flooding, for our schools. But we have an opportunity now that 830G is kind of out of the picture for the next 4 years to really plan, so we can get another 5 years, that would be 9 years to really take control. of our destiny on this. And there's different options, like we're doing Habitat for Humanity, but that's not gonna really move the needle.
Right.
But it will provide some new opportunities, but I think that we need to be proactive in what we need and work together to how we can make it happen.
Do you see a need? I see a need for senior housing specifically, because in the 8-30G, many of them were for the workforce of
Yeah.
people within certain income limits. And I know when we had Bill Gerber here, we did talk about that a little bit, and about the point system that was assigned to the 8-30G and how only 1 point was assigned for senior housing versus 7 or 8 points for other categories. So as for selectmen, what are we doing to address specifically senior housing here in this community? Because a lot of people, I work with seniors quite a bit, and I see them being displaced out of this town because they can't afford to stay here anymore.
Well, right now, I think that we're not doing, we need to have a plan for senior housing. I think we talk about it a lot.
We do.
And I don't really, we look for opportunities, for places where we could build land, like it's an issue of just a free space to build. And for developers, it's not necessarily profitable.
Right.
We should work closely with the Affordable Housing Commission, I think, in terms of some senior housing. Haven't,
Yeah, I don't see, I've
Those-
been on this commission now for 4 years, I think,
yeah,
and we've been talking about it, and I never see the lift. And it's just like, and it's a significant part of our population here in town that's paying a significant amount of taxes. And even though those who don't have the income level have some tax breaks, but and I've lived here for 30 some years, I just don't see the focus being on our seniors. Everyone's about the workforce, and I respect that, I really
Yeah.
do, but I think we need to respect the people who built this town that want to stay in this town. And, as our representative, what are you in the town doing to address that group?
well, I'm gonna look at your action plan and start and participated in some of those meetings. And then I think that we need to really work with economic development to really just identify areas where we can develop that housing, looking, and for future development, for what our seniors are looking for. Around downtown, walkability.
Right. Yeah, it's the other area, yeah, accessibility. walkability. Yeah,
Accessibility, and that, Bill Gerber, passionate about complete streets and moving that forward to having housing, so seniors they don't only want to downsize, they also want to downsize and have easy access to services.
Mhm.
So I think that as we're looking at our transit-oriented development, and talking to developers, that needs to be a more proactive part of the conversation. And when we're looking at buildings in town that we might be able to reuse, it needs to be part of the conversation.
Accessibility of those buildings.
And
yeah,
the accessibility, that's right. I mean, I've, being canvassing and knocking on a lot of doors, I've talked to a lot of people that are in homes and they want to stay in Fairfield, and they really don't want to be by themselves in a 4-bedroom home and have to take care of 2 acres, but they don't want to leave the community and there's really no place to go.
Right.
And some of those smaller homes are kind of being flipped now and are turning into larger homes. So the inventory, it is getting to be an issue for our seniors and also for our young adults that are looking to come into the community and start a family as well.
Didn't we talk at one point, a few years ago, actually, about the building by Gould Manor?
The Turner Center, the Army Center.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we're still,
It's still.
it's
empty.
very, we're moving along on that. They did some testing and some remediation in the building. Right now, that building, it's the federal government right now, needs to kind of decommission it. There's wells on that
We
building,
let go of it.
like, they just kind of like check the box that we've inspected the building, that we've remediated any hazardous materials. There's wells on that site that they need to inspect before they hand it over to the town. There is been some forward movement, but it's very, very slow, and there's only so much we can do about that because it really is in the hands of the federal government at this
I get it,
particular
yeah.
moment. That building is supposed to be slated for recreational use. So I don't know, like, if we could change the use for housing. there
Yeah,
have
I don't
been-
know that we need more recreational use.
Well, I think that that could be a conversation when you talk about the senior center, if down the line, could you move the senior center to the Turner Army site? And then you have Mona Terrace, which now you've got town property there. Could you redevelop that for housing potentially?
That'd be perfect.
Right, I mean, it's in a flood zone, so it would need, then you have the accessibility there, because if you're building in a 100-year floodplain, it would need to be
When
elevated.
was the last flood there?
I know, but it doesn't make it doesn't matter.
Probably Sandy.
Yeah, I mean, it just,
I don't think it was.
but in terms of building and
No,
for
I bet
FEMA.
you
I
that
can
was-
affirm since I worked in the first selectman's office up until summer, the Turner Center has been just a massive sending stuff there. Like, oh, actually, you need to address this too and this too. Yeah, so it's, I can affirm it's being worked on, and it was being worked on when I started at the first selectman's office, and it's still going on when I hit it. So,
And it-
yeah, I can affirm the town is doing everything it can with that center.
Yeah, I just came from a staff meeting and
Good to
the
hear.
staff is going away. She's like, I just want to tell you about I'm waiting. I speak to the deputy like every two, the corporal, every 2 weeks or so, and I'm moving along, and they've gotten this, but now they'll look at wells and keep decommissioning the wells. So it's moving along, but
It's endless.
It's really at a
It could go
snail's
on forever.
I think that everybody wants to know so we can plan for it. And I think moving on, getting a townwide facilities commission together of just residents that can look at some of these different sites around town and decide what we want to do next. A lot of focus is on our existing buildings, but we know that affordable housing is an issue for all ages.
What can we do to help you with your agendas forward, helping people in our community?
Well, I think that you are, myself, just for youth services, I'll make the pitch. For Fearful Cares, we did a strategic plan and we were looking at ways that right now it seems like we're providing a lot of services to our youth, but they are not as centralized, I think, as they could be. The Parks and Rec has a piece, the police department has a piece, Fairfield Public Schools has a piece, other towns similar to, an action plan, have an action plan for their youth. Talk about mental health services,
exactly,
we've
yeah.
got a lot of services within our community. Other organizations that I'm not sure the public knows about and how to access
access
them. And some of them are nonprofits that the town is actually subsidizing. And it may just be having a commission or the first selectman's office or getting a group of people together to kind of move that initiative.
More
forward.
awareness and also a conduit for those services. So if
Yes.
somebody is having a challenging situation involving a family member, they know where to go, who will have knowledge of the various services that are available to those individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% echo that there are many more that do not know and are not aware than that do. And you typically don't look until you're in sort of a crisis mode, and that's not the best time to look. And I think we could easily do some small, inexpensive lifts to get information out to the community about how much there really is to offer here, like through human services, the Parks and Rec, I mean, the senior services, there's so much. And it's unfortunate because it's multiple formats of information sharing. It can't just be one way or another way. And so it's a heavy lift in that the resources, you do need the people to really be doing it. It doesn't have to be expensive, but I 100% think it's an area that we could probably do better in, for sure. And I think with the change in the federal government's approach to some of our more vulnerable populations, they've really kind of just gotten rid of anything around DEI and gender identity. So there's sort of this group of people that are kind of now having to hide a little bit more. And I think it's just going to cause more issues down the road for them. So even being more transparent, I think as a community will help.
And disabilities. I agree.
Yeah, so
100%.
Disabilities also.
for sure.
If I may, Christine, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to come. Just noted.
I'm sorry, I have to leave, I have another meeting, but
I'm reasonably new to the commission and I don't know if the matter came before the commission last year or not, but one of the things that surprised me about how town government was operating last year was that in the reorganization, human services, there was an intermediary reporting line between human services and the first selectman office. And I understand that that might have been done for reasons of efficiency and things like that. But I also think that my view of human services is that they are just as much first responders as police and firemen, between mental health, vulnerable seniors, and seniors that are becoming more and more vulnerable because of the changes that we're looking at in the government. And I think the organization that has human services together with Parks and Rec, arenas, or trees and lands, sends a message that people may not be as important as other things in how town government is structured. And I know Julie has full access to you when it's needed, but the reporting structure just seems a little bit odd. It's a people-centered service. I think it should be a priority at the first selectman's office about how human services department operates and everything else. And it just, when there's an intermediary, and any of us who work with business or another government, when there's an intermediary, you're out of the loop of certain issues. And I was just curious about your views and structure, whether you see opportunities there, or do you think it's working?
I think it's too new, and Julie and I talked about a little bit too new to, for me to tell. I was not involved in the decision-making for this restructuring. I think that the vision of, community services being, recreational opportunities is definitely something that's important, and I would think there need to be some synergy. But when you talk about services for the disabled, creating more recreational opportunities for our seniors, the senior center does a great job. But I mean, I think that that's where the vision was. But I, for myself, very much appreciate that Julie is the expert in this arena. And while they complement each other, I think we still need to work out the dynamic of how the whole thing is gonna ultimately play out.
I'd be very sensitive to the message that is sent when the most widely distributed piece of information about human services in town, the brochure, which was wonderfully produced, is mostly about recreation activities, parks and rec, arena, book your golf time. It just sends a really, really bad
I
message.
think that's,
A bad message
I think we
about.
were all very surprised when we found out that part of the reorganization that would be falling under.
I don't know, did it come before the board, Marty?
No, we were just made aware that
We were,
that's what
we were
happened.
told about it.
Yeah, we had
I know
indicated
when-
some concerns initially and then found out, and actually it went the opposite direction I think many of us thought it would.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I had previously served on the commission, and at that juncture, and I'm going back 6 or 7 years ago, we had spent a lot of time on relationship between the departments and town government. I thought we had that direct line reporting was really critical. I was just very much surprised, and as I say, I wasn't involved. It didn't come up recently at the commission level, so I'm speaking a little bit out of turn.
But actually,
forgive
it's
me.
right on target with our films.
But I don't think it sends the right message at all about the importance of a people-centered service in the community. So, and that's a personal view.
I agree with you and I hear what you're saying. I think what we do, what Julie's department does is so much more important than booking your golf time. However, I will say that when I received the brochure, I felt that brochure went to everybody. Young mothers are reading it, people that are signing up for camp. I think that the publicity and having all those services in one brochure, I thought the information would be accessed by more people rather than people going, oh, I don't need social services. I just felt it was more inclusive.
I would agree with that. I thought it was a wonderful publication
Yeah.
in terms of town services. I'm more focused on how the relationship with departments Department and the First Selectman's Office in terms of structural reporting. That to me sends the message that it's not as critical as either police, other first responders, things like that. And it's just a view and sharing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up with that, I think one of the things, it does concentrate on a certain area. There's a whole bunch of social services that Julie's group does that I don't think most of the people in this town appreciate or know about. And that would not have been in this brochure. But I think we need to communicate that better because I go to the service center, the senior center a lot because I'm retired. So I see all the stuff that Julie and her folks do there. But I don't think a lot of people know about it. And in fact, we had, I forget the woman's name that spoke at our last meeting, Julie was head of the social services. All of the stuff that they do between gift cards and everything else. And first of all, I think a lot of people are not aware of all the stuff that goes on. And I think that's a way, maybe that could get, you're concerned that could get lost in the translation when you're dealing with community services, although to me, that's a real community service. So maybe it's just a matter of who's ever part of this community services realizes that the things like what the social service aspect of what Julie does is just as important as the marina and the golf, making the golf times. And that's just something maybe we need to do as a commission to make sure that we have a strong presence. I mean, will there be a community service commission? We know that is that granular yet?
No, I don't think there's gonna be a community service commission.
Okay, so that whatever this commission do.
Right now, I think the Parks and Rec will have their commission. This commission will stay put, and then the information will flow through Julie.
There's no change to that in the charter.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
No
change,
change in
there's
that.
no change to that in the charter.
So maybe that's something we could work on together with your people. As far as making the social services a lot more well-known because they do you go in there, you know as well as I do, all of the programs and so forth, that go there on an ongoing basis. And a lot of people, I don't think are totally aware of what goes on.
I would
think part of
consider
that is-
Julie to be, sorry, if I may, the police chief and the fire chief of those who are disabled or in need in town, in the community. And that to me says access should be direct. It just, having an intermediary, in my experience, it says that it's filtered. And I think the presentations, the access, the need to know should be more focused and direct. But for consideration.
No, and I'm
Just,
thinking, I've told Julie that if she, she's still a charter position, that directly to the first selectman, the decision was made by First Selectman Gerber to have, just in terms of reporting structure, to delegate some of that to the chief of community service. And I think that his vision was very much wanting to promote and build programming and synergy between the two departments. I hear you in terms of the brochure, but also hear you that like everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And this is just like, it's not like you're over here and Parks and Rec is over here. Like this is our community and this is the breadth of services that we're offering. And, you don't necessarily need to look for it. We're just pushing it out to everybody. And that Parks and Rec very often sticks around in families, just that you keep it around. So maybe some of the PR piece of it, but maybe it needs to be more robust and it needs to be, or something separate for just social
Or
services.
perhaps another option would be to have a combined Parks and Rec and Social Services brochure where there's a clear delineation
Yeah.
between the two. So we would have the distribution that we appreciate, but yet it would have a separate section to
Yeah.
make people aware that this is a
Absolutely. I
separate
mean-
section.
Good
of
idea.
the services.
You
I think the
can
brochure
add-
is wonderful and can be expanded and even perhaps even increase the frequency of it. And I'm all for putting all the services that are available for all of the residents of the community in one
We
location.
want to
one
make sure
place.
that the services that you're,
Clear.
that
That
it's
doesn't-
clear,
Right.
clear
That
and easier
doesn't
to get to
change
and
the
prioritized.
Point I'd be making about
And not as, not appearing as an
perception,
afterthought.
structure.
I got you.
I
do
do
wanna
want
just-
renaming it from Parks and Recs or whatever the title of the brochure was
Right.
to Town Services, you
Right,
know, or
yeah.
something like that.
I just think it's nice that everybody reads.
No, I
I
think-
read it cover to cover,
Yeah.
just because that's what I do. And I mean, I think it's nice for a young family to read and say, gee, maybe my neighbor, my daughter's friend, maybe they could use that social service. I've noticed, or my mother-in-law really could use such and such. I think.
You got the brochure, you're glad you live here.
Good, just,
It's a
yeah,
wonderful
I
piece.
think that
And
was
that
the
the town
intent.
is offering
Yeah.
all of these varied services.
yeah.
I hate to leave
Thank
in the
you
middle
so
of
much
this.
for
I'm
being
so
here. Really
sorry.
appreciate it.
I have another board that needed a forum, so I have to go. I
It was
would love
wonderful
to
that
come
you were
back
here.
again.
Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, I would
Every
love to,
time.
You're
really, I would love
you're
to.
invited for
I
every
will,
meeting.
you know, I will put you on my calendar. I'm gonna come when I can.
That'd be great. Yeah, we appreciate it. And thank you for taking that.
No,
time. You're
no,
very
I
busy
really,
schedule.
this meeting got added to my calendar yesterday, I think, and it.
Very glad that you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for
Nice to
everything
meet
you're doing for the
Nice to
town.
meet you, nice to meet you
Yeah.
too.
I know.
Pleasure to see you.
Pleasure to see you again.
Hi, Christine.
Bye-bye. Joe, you were just about to talk regarding age-friendly and the action plan.
Well, I think we all have a copy, a nice thing that
Yeah.
Julie put together here. And I guess we went to the Board of Selection at the meeting September 18th.
Yeah.
So kind of looked at everybody. So I guess it's done. I guess we'll go to the AARP. and
We already submitted it.
Great. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, it's, it has a very robust bunch of things we have to do in the areas, the action plans. And one of the, I didn't want to dominate the conversation with Christine, but a lot of the action plans, when you go through it, you'll see there's community partners that are listed that we will have to work with in order to implement some of these actions. Because these action items have targeted outcomes with hopefully specific year 1, year 2, year 3 type things. And specific outcomes that we want to come up with, but more importantly, we're going to be working with a lot of different people in town here. So I was going to bring it up to her, but I figured you'd be better to naturally than I would. So all I can say is, I think Billy did a great job with the final product here. It looks beautiful. And
We hired somebody to do.
we have a lot of work. We have a lot of work to do, as you can see.
Use
The
town
project is
protocols.
not done. It's just starting. You can see all the stuff in blue that we have to, that we will be addressing. And we'll do that on an ongoing basis with.
This could help guide any projects we want to work on too, though. So if you're looking through, keep an eye on what, I mean, keeping your, an eye on whether or not there are areas that you think we could start working on as a commission. Subcommittees and such.
So is there going to be like an update on this? So we have like year 1, 2, and 3 goals. So there'll be another document coming out indicating how well we've accomplished whatever those goals are for those years.
Yeah, nothing this fancy, but we'll, just an update, maybe an outline. I know for any of the domains that are covered, it's transportation, housing, maybe health and wellness, social engagement, and communication. I know from at senior center, we're already just taking notes on what is already happening, that there's a lot that's in there that the town started, the plan of conservation and development is in there, the affordable housing plan, Parks and Rec master plan, there's a lot of things we have.
Right.
But we're also doing things, like trying to streamline a center for all this information that as a one-stop to come get information at the senior center. Different education programs like falls prevention. So we're taking notes as we go. So, year 1 will report, this is what the town has accomplished and I'll bring it to you. And then year 2, same thing.
So how is that going to look though, when you're reporting out on the accomplishments based on what the goals are?
Well, we address them based on the goals. So, if we have, for instance. Let's create and distribute a comprehensive resource guide features, health services. Community partners of the Bigelow Center and Social Services, what domains, it's the targeted outcome is increased awareness and accessibility of healthcare resources. And we have the same for mental health. So we want to have that done by year 3,
Right.
but along the way, we'll be taking steps to have that done. And then we
And
report
reporting out.
to AARP that these are the things we accomplished for year 1, or look, we're ahead, we've done,
Okay.
3 years in 1.
So there'll be some type of document addressing the year 1
Right.
goals and how well those have been accomplished.
Yeah, they give us a form to fill
Oh,
out.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it should be, the
And that would
hardest
be
part was
shared with the
doing-
commission?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a great piece. A lot of work to do.
It was a lot of work. We had a very good committee.
Excellent. Any other questions regarding the action plan?
The only thing I just wanted to
Thank you.
mention,
You're involved.
September 30th at the senior center. Mark Barnhart is going to be talking about affordable housing at 10 o'clock. So that's one of the key items, obviously, in the book here. So if any of you are available, it may be worthwhile just to stop by and listen to him. So
At 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
You do have to register for it. It depends on what room.
And obviously it's 10 a.m. you're referring to.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Great work.
Yeah, really nice.
It'll be ongoing. It'll be ongoing.
Okay, Board of Health, Nina.
They had a special meeting on the 8th of this month because the August meeting was canceled. So I did attend the meeting. I was a few minutes late and it was a very short meeting. They didn't have a lot on the agenda, but they covered respiratory rates, wastewater, all that kind of stuff, and everything was really low, they said, especially for this time of year. And then they talked about all the flu clinics that are going to be available starting, they were starting on the 9th of September. And a lot of them were some of them I think are in your building.
In
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, there's October 1st and October 16th are 2 big flu clinic days. And then RSV and pneumonia are available for anyone over 65.
What about COVID?
COVID and flu are available the 1st and the 16th. Well, COVID the 1st, the 16th might be flu only. And then they updated they had done a lot of programming with Fairfield Cares, which is the group, the organization Christine actually mentioned. They did an overdose awareness vigil at the end of August, which is the 30th of August is International Overdose Awareness Day. So I think it was around then. And then they did a health expo where they had a Narcan training, which is the naloxone that you can use if somebody is experiencing an overdose. And three folks there were trained, and I guess there's 2 folks at the health department that can give the training. So they're out in the community giving those Narcan trainings whenever it's appropriate or there's an event. Their annual report is due to the State Department of Public Health December 5th, so they've started working on that. And then they've been getting calls for, I thought this was interesting, QPR training. Do you guys know? QPR stands for Question, Persuade, Respond. It's a very brief mental health training that you can give to anybody in the community. And it's really just a way for you to be able to interact with a person who might be experiencing a mental health situation. And it gives you the sort of skills to identify, not treat, but refer and make sure they get to the appropriate place. So there are folks at the health department that are trained in that, and they'd actually gotten a call from Fairfield University asking to come and give that training to some of the, I believe, staff and students. So I thought that was great. They've been doing a lot of social media posts on safe streets, their vaccine clinics and all that kind of stuff. And then the big thing on their plate right now is every 3 years, the regional hospital group there, it's the Health Improvement Alliance, HIA. They have to update their community health needs assessment. It's a pretty big project. And this is the year they're doing that. So they've been working on that with this regional group, which is Bridgeport, Stratford, Trumbull, Fairfield, Easton, maybe Monroe. And Fairfield, the Fairfield Health Department is involved in that, and they basically come out of that with a document that's a community health improvement plan. They call it a CHIP, and they'll prioritize 3 areas, which is mental well-being, preventative care, and strengthening communities. And then that's sort of their strategic plan for the next 3 years moving out, that this regional group will work on, but the health department being a member of that group. So that's been sort of their big lift right now. And then the SANS is going on leave for a few months. So the director, their assistant director will be taking over while he is out on leave.
Are COVID shots still given for free?
I think the clinic on the first, they said COVID, they said flu and COVID. From 10 to 2.
65, is that what it is?
And you can get a high dose flu vaccine if you're over 65.
Right.
And COVID is free, I think, for people over 65.
I think everything
Is that-
at these clinics is free. There's no charge if you're going to one of these clinics.
Did you bring your insurance card?
Okay, I just wanted to share an experience I had COVID this summer, and I was really sick for like 2 days, and I had got Paxlovid. Paxlovid is no longer subsidized by the government. I had, with my insurance, I had to pay $400 if I wanted it. So I'm wondering if there's folks there that, I said to the pharmacist at CVS, I said, why isn't my insurance paying for this? He said, oh, your insurance did. They paid $1,400, and now you have to pay the $400. Do you want it? And I'm like so sick, and I said, yes, I want it, because I could,
Yeah.
not that I want, but I'm wondering if there's a lot of folks that really could use the Paxlovid, and they're not, even with insurance, with good insurance.
I didn't have to pay for it.
You didn't?
But how long ago was
This
this?
is how, yeah, how long?
Good year ago.
Oh,
Maybe
Oh,
they-
no, I didn't a year ago either.
That
This was
sounds
last
great.
month. This was in July.
Oh,
It's different now,
That's
and
outrageous.
that's what the pharmacy, I'm just wondering if that'll be an issue. The treatment for COVID that is recommended for some people. So I'm wondering if we're gonna start to, that's why I was wondering
Yeah.
if shots were covered. I mean, I had a shot in June that was covered, so I don't know.
I think the shots are still covered, I believe.
Okay.
That's interesting. Excellent.
For this commission, would you want to have the Narcan training? We could ask a trainer to come.
Yeah,
and
it's
give
great.
us
If
a-
you've
I think that
never,
would be a great
if you've
idea.
never done it, you should all do it. It's a
It's not
simple,
scary.
it's
Yeah.
not scary.
No, I
I've
think
done
it's
like
not.
3 of them. It's great.
The training is not the administering?
I've been to the trainings.
Yes, okay.
And the other one, we could have them come.
QPR.
Yeah, if you've
Yeah.
never done QPR. So that made me think, 'cause we were talking about getting information out. So this is such a small example, but we live in a community where we have people trained in Narcan, QPR, there's something called mental health first aid, which is another great program. I'm sure 80% of the people who live in this community have no idea that that's something that they could do. And it is such a great skill tool to have as somebody living in this community. So those are the small things. It's like, how do we get that information out to folks?
Well, that goes to your point, that's community service, that's Human Service Commission, you know what I mean? And they should be communicating it and becoming more visible as an important part of our community, because that's exactly where that belongs. So underneath the umbrella of human service, or where,
We have social workers trained at QPR.
I bet you do,
I
yeah.
do.
I bet you do.
We've done the.
And they probably will start doing the mental health first aid, because that's a longer one. It's
It is.
harder.
I
It's
did-
like a
did that
full
tra-
day.
But I'm not a trainer on that.
No,
But
but
we
it's.
could do not the same day, but maybe 2 different meetings, have a Narcan training, because that's about a half hour.
Yeah.
And then another day do the QPR. That would be great.
What about the mental health training, that how to intervene with
That's the
somebody-
That's the
QPR.
QPR.
That's,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
question, persuade, refer.
Right, but the mental health first aid is different.
That's a
Oh,
different one.
that's a
That's a
longer one.
great one. So that's an interesting program. It's about an 8-hour training.
oh.
But what's interesting is it's specific. So there's a general training that you take as like an adult. But then they have one that's specifically youth. So it's how you help youth that might be struggling. They have one for older adults, which we could do. They have public safety specifically. They have first responders. And then I think they have one other, educators. So they've sort of they've been able to kind of create these specialized sections of this training for certain population groups, which is also kind of neat.
What if? Just saying. What if this commission had a train, like promoted these trainings? What if we
I think.
work together? I don't know if it's a subcommittee or something, it might be something for the commission to be able to put out there that these trainings are available or to get them out there. With the QPR, you just you call to get a trainer. But this mental health first aid, it's an all-day commitment, so that's a lot for people to go through, but some of them are online, but there's a way, there might be a path for this commission to coordinate or organize through different agencies. And there's a lot of different,
Yeah.
between the health and
Yeah.
the schools.
Yeah.
Let's think about that.
Yeah.
Let you guys get on that.
Yeah.
We would have to
Yeah.
work, I would assume we'd have to work with the health commission.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
You know,
We
I
have
mean,
our liaison.
but I mean, the health commission itself, I mean,
They'd
see
be-
how they
they're-
would.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, it's Santina. She'd be totally up for it. She was excited when Fairfield U called. She was like, Fairfield U called us.
Honestly, a lot of entities aren't aware that these exist, so. it's
That's
nice to
why-
make them
Use it.
aware of it.
And
And
put
then
people in the
that
homes.
we can't provide that kind of training.
You know, immediately where I'm going is all these home care agencies that we have
Sure.
here. I mean, they are front lines, you know what I mean? And, you know,
Absolutely, yeah.
the owners or whoever's going in to do the intakes, they have to be part of their intake assessment because there's a lot going on in these homes that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
Back in the day, the fire chief, the previous fire chief did a training for emergencies and storm trainings or, you know.
Yes, I
I
remember
remember
that.
that.
Yep.
For home care agencies and for some of the
Yeah.
nursing homes, it would be great to get that back because we've been lacking trainings over the last bit of time.
But the other thing, just talking about regional assets, is that both hospitals in Bridgeport have basically a funding commitment to provide training, outreach, and they have a
That's
robust range of
Community,
portfolio
yeah.
of training services.
Their community health
They-
departments.
It's part of their chip, their
Yes.
everything else, but
Silver Hill too, though.
Yeah.
all around,
Same
yeah.
thing with the behavioral.
It's
Yeah.
part of the Affordable Care Act. Like in 2011, they had to have a community health component and look at every 3 years, assess the needs in their communities, which is
And
this
report on the
process.
trainings they provide.
the other thing that is always an interesting resource of information that this group could at some point maybe benefit from is inviting the social worker embedded in the police department. Because they're the ones visiting a lot of the homes and they have a good pulse on some of the needs in the
great idea.
community.
Mhm.
So that could be an invite
Yeah,
at some
We
point.
should do that.
Their schedules are, always
How many
varied,
social
you know.
workers are there?
There's one.
They have an intern too, don't they? So there's one and an intern, yeah.
Yeah, I think you always get some good information.
I tell you, I have to give a plug though for these social workers in this department. Because I refer here a lot to some of my clients and they step up. You do a tremendous job at filling the holes for these elderly people that really need some help. You're welcome. Please take that back because you really are top notch compared to some of the other communities that I deal with. So you really hats off.
That's good to hear.
That's great.
A lot to think about, Nina. Thank you very much for that
Yeah,
report. Really
course.
appreciate it.
Oh, you were newsy.
Yeah, really.
Yes, I just it was a quick meeting.
What's gonna happen when it's an hour meeting?
I know.
Maybe like-
Modify my notes.
And thank you, really appreciate it. Commission on Disabilities, Julie?
Okay, there's the commission hasn't
Haven't
met
met.
and it's winding down once they're assuming that the charter is approved. That commission will be, part of this commission. So what?
That's in,
November.
okay.
Yeah.
Even if it's approved, that commission ceases to exist in December, right?
Okay, department updates, community services.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you very much today with the first select woman.
Great hire.
Yeah, that was great. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So things that we have, well, I'm just gonna lump these all together because it just is faster. We have our mental health breakfast for professionals on Tuesday at the senior center. The speaker is Edith Boyle, who's the executive and president of LifeBridge Community Services. LifeBridge is part of, they're in Bridgeport, but you know, the little white house behind Town Hall, that's also LifeBridge. The town does help fund them. They're a nonprofit, but since Edith has come in, she has really it greatly improved the program. It used to be very difficult to get referrals, very difficult to get consistency, and she has imposed a lot of structure and wonderful programming. She does a weekly lunch and learn on different subjects. The subject of this talk is community resilience, the community resilience model about trauma-informed care and making sure that people are aware of how to help build resilience after a trauma. If you would like to come, it starts at 8:30. You just show up. It's
What's the date,
Tuesday. Tuesday.
Coming
8:30,
Tuesday?
Yes,
That's a big one.
at the Bigelow Center, yeah,
And where is it?
at the Bigelow Center.
At the 8 a.m.?
8 a.m. for breakfast, 8:30 for talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's coming Tuesday.
We are working on getting a veterans coffee house started. A lot of communities have, you know, like a monthly meeting with veterans to just come, that sometimes they have speakers. They just sit, visit and have coffee. We tried a few years ago, we tried a men's club, neither worked out, neither took off. But because we have the veterans office in our building, their veteran services officer who is stationed there wants to start it. And we're working on getting the Penfield Pavilion for that. So that monthly meeting will be at the pavilion. It'll be separate because I think the senior center was not a barrier, but you know, you're walking, it's not veterans focused. So this would be veterans focused. So stay tuned for that.
There's two men's groups. I just need to throw this out here that are around here. It's called Romeo's.
Yeah.
It's retired old men eating out.
Love that.
You know, and the closest one I think is in Wilton, but they only want to keep it to Wilton people. I'm like, that would be such a good thing just for the men here in this group to start Romeos. You know what I mean? At our senior center. I mean,
Well, some of
seriously,
us
it's
have that
hysterical.
informally
Well, you do?
already anyway.
Yeah.
But,
But I just thought that was, and the
I
other
did
thing they
that-
call themselves is wise men, the YMCA,
Westport.
wise men. And
Westport,
it's just,
yeah.
I mean, they've come up with these little names that really everyone gravitates
right.
towards, because it sounds
But
like
you
fun.
remember Romeo?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, sure. Like they have T-shirts and, you know, it's just.
There's
like
a
this
wise
whole
woman.
That's a great
Women too.
idea.
Oh, is there?
Yes, there
Oh.
is. They're sure
I
funny.
just met a bunch of the men from the one in New Canaan. There are like 300 plus members.
The
yeah.
senior men's club.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh my,
they're remarkable.
I mean, and then they were telling me about all their programming and it's endless,
It is.
endless.
Where is
Yeah.
it?
In New Canaan.
Okay.
Wow.
I went to high
Powerful
school in New Canaan and my peers are all going to that because they're rich and retired, so.
They have a pretty strong group there.
They
Is
do.
that through the town or?
We are having some staffing changes. One of our social workers, Kristen, has left us for a full-time job with better pay. So we're hiring a part-time social worker. Janet, our longtime secretary, her last full day is Tuesday, but she'll be part-time until we have somebody and she feels that they're sufficiently trained. And we are going to hire a youth services social worker, which is new. We've wanted one for a long time. As Christine mentioned, that youth services is scattered. And hopefully this will help to bring it to one location. The person would be working with schools, with social services, with police social worker, with the juvenile review board, with the diversion team. So that person's gonna be very, very busy, and Allison, who's here last month, will supervise that person, and we're side by side with her because this is new for us. Yeah, it's great. I did go to a training that was offered by our regional emergency services, that was for senior centers and shelter providers, about if there is either a mass casualty or a weather event and there is a shelter, how to handle ICE because the concern is that people who are undocumented will not go to a shelter, even if it's mandated that they have to leave because they're afraid of getting arrested, and what that looks like and how to message that. And there's not money for hotels. So that's ongoing, but I'll keep you posted. That was interesting and interesting all at the same time. That might have been it for us.
Thank you.
But thank you again for bringing up.
community services.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Anything else? Any good welfare? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Is there a
I
second?
second.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good meeting.